Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Reggie Jamo, Deputy Commander of the Norfolk District. On behalf of the presiding officer of today's ceremony, Major General Jeffrey Milhorn, Deputy Commanding General for Military and International Operations, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Welcome to the retirement ceremony for Colonel Patrick Kinsman, following 28 years of honorable and faithful service to the United States Army and the nation. We're glad you could join us today. It's a little warm, a lot warm, a little humid, but we got a pretty good breeze out here, and it's a beautiful day otherwise. And we actually didn't know we were going to be holding it outside until this morning. So thanks to Matt, Jamaica, logistics, Chuck and his crew, PAO, for quickly setting this up and making sure everything's working today. So thank you. General Milhorn, thank you for presiding over today's ceremony. Also welcoming Colonel Kinsman's family, his wife Elisa, his sons Ethan, Seth, and Holden, his parents Thomas and Carolyn Kinsman. Also welcome to other family and friends of Colonel Kinsman, friends of the district, our executive staff, and of course, Team Norfolk, both here in person and those watching online. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation and the national anthem. The invocation will be offered by Colonel Retired Scott Lauerman.
Hey, Pat, I just want you to know it's a blessing and a high honor to be doing this. Brother, please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing today on the occasion of the retirement of Colonel Patrick Kinsman. We thank Pat for his dedicated and unwavering service to our nation, the Army, and the Engineer Regiment. We also thank Pat's wife, Elisa, for her dedicated and selfless service in supporting Pat and their boys, Ethan, Holden, and Seth, throughout Pat's 28-year career. Lord, we thank you for watching over the Kinsman family through several PCS assignments and deployments. As the Kinsmans prepare for their next chapter of service outside the military, we ask that you would guide them, nurture them, and protect them in all their future endeavors. May they continue to seek your will in all that they do. We pray your richest blessings upon the Kinsman family. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We're good.
Please be seated. I'd like to now introduce the presiding officer for today's ceremony, Major General Jeffrey Milhorn.
So I think just as Scott had said, Pat,
What an awesome
day this is going to be for you, the family, everybody that has traveled from the East and West Coast.
Debbie and I could not be more proud to be part of this ceremony. But I got to get my props set up a little bit here because 28 years is a long time, and there's a lot of stories. That I'm going to only share a few. But
Mike Ellicott.
Oh, well, Mike's part of that too. So, hey, first and foremost, to those that are joining us here in person today, and I apologize, I tend to migrate from the microphone, but as I look across the crowd that are here, to all of those that are in uniform and out of uniform, those that are joining us certainly virtually today, those that are here with us spiritually as well, looking over us in this just outstanding career of service and sacrifice that the family has made. Certainly to Pat and Elisa, as we approach really 20 years of marriage. I think the anniversary is coming up here in October. We also extend our sincere appreciation to Tom and Carol, Pat's parents, who are joining us from Bellevue, Washington. Certainly to Tom and Dottie, who are not here with us, but as I said, they are. They are here with us, watching over all this today. And to all the family members, the boys who are here certainly with us today as well, cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles, anybody else that are here, family and friends, the distinguished guests that are again online with us today. It is certainly my honor to be here. I wouldn't be anywhere else based on the number of years that we've served, starting many, many years ago. I think it was mentioned certainly earlier that there's a lot that goes into these activities to set up. And one that was just yesterday to include the change of command between Pat and Brian Harper. And so I would ask if everybody would join me in a round of applause for who has made this a special event today. Contributing to what will be a very memorable event as we take a little bit of time to tell Pat's story, Pat and Elisa's and the boys' stories, if you will, over the last few years. And for those that have never been to an event like this, we tend to, again, kind of review 28 years of service in this case. Talk a little bit about how Pat grew up. I'll share a few humorous stories along the way. There'll be certainly more to be told, I'm sure, as the day goes on. But also share the love and support of Elisa and the boys and all that they've endured certainly over the last few years. And then we'll break from this and go to some formal service awards, both to Pat and Elisa. Turn it over to Pat for some reflections, and then we'll break from here, I believe, and go inside shortly after, cool off a little bit or jump in the water, whatever you need to do. So let's talk about Pat. As we farewell him after, as I said, 28 years of service. Raised in Bellevue, Washington, and a proud member of the class of 1993 of the United States Military Academy at West Point. Defenders of the Free in 93 was the motto then. And as Pat earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Engineering, which I believe even back then was relatively new to the curriculum, as soon as he broke away from West Point and headed south down the Hudson, actually out west to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. He attended his engineer officer basic course. And I don't know if he went from Fort Leonard Wood to Fort Benning, Georgia for Ranger School not too long after that, shrinking a little bit in size and then growing back up fairly quickly before he reported to Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, in the mighty 1st In Last Out Battalion of the 65th Engineers, 25th Infantry Division at Schofield Barracks. He served as a platoon leader, an executive officer, an ops officer, and I believe he worked for the Assistant Division Engineers in L&O there as well. And I know, Pat, that we've got several vets from the 65th Engineers. It's probably really all of the units that you've served in over the last 28 years. Steve McGonigal, if you're online, shout out to you. Mike Ellicott, believe it or not, Steve, he's actually here. You got to come down and see him. I know John Hurley also may be online today, and I'm not quite sure who else, but a lot of vets out there watching, and exceptionally proud of all that you contributed to. And yet this is where our first story begins, as he started his career as a young lieutenant amongst several, Mike Ellicott, Jeff Mazakowski, Matt McInerney, and others, many of which lived in what was known as a mansion. It was a mansion up in Makakilo Heights in Hawaii. 4 lieutenants, I believe at the time, living on beanbag chairs. I mean, it was a multi-million-dollar house. Living on beanbag chairs, I think he had a big stereo. I do recall all your TA-50, which is all their troop equipment, laying out across the floor in the basement, which was actually supposed to be this beautiful view looking out on the southern shores of Oahu. But you couldn't see it because all your gear was laying out there. But it was famous for becoming the party palace, if I recall back then. Well, while Pat was also there in the 65th, he was infamous for shouting "Go long!" as he would throw and husk. One of my first props out here to him. So, Frisbee, you can let the boys play with that one later. It glows in the dark, guys. So just be careful of the dogs chewing it apart. So that was where we all learned. And in fact, that was probably one of our most proud moments when we won the Oahu State Championship, or at least from a military perspective, across the 25th Infantry Division. But shortly after that, Pat returned to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where he attended the Engineer Officer Advanced course and then earned his first master's degree at the University of Missouri-Rolla in engineering management. And then it was then that he departed from beautiful Missouri out to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and joined, I believe, the 37th Engineer Battalion and the 20th Engineer Brigade, whose motto is "Fortune or misfortune is all the same to a man of stout heart." I wasn't going to try to pronounce it in Latin, so I thought I'd do better saying. He was there. He served as the S4. He also commanded Charlie Company within the 37th Engineers, but they were all part of the 20th Engineer Brigade then. And this is where yet another story occurs. I recall, and it was probably even provided by Pat, that he was innovative. Most of those that are here in the Norfolk District that are joining us here today have seen the things that he's done over the last 3 years. But he was even innovative back then when it came to fundraising. He offered to the highest bidder anybody the opportunity to shave his head. And just as a soldier had grabbed the clippers and was ready to approach, he outbid him by $250 or something along those lines, and donated his own money to prevent that travesty from occurring. Now, I failed, as I was telling Betty how disappointed I was, and I rushed to depart to come out here. I left my clippers back, but I know that Mike Alcott brought some with him, and tonight we're going to open the bid again. Okay. And we'll see. We'll see how much we raise. And Mike, I think I saw a collection taken up out there in the hallway, so we're on our way. Another thing, while he was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which I think was probably the most important thing that ever happened to him in his life, and it's his lovely wife, Elisa, sitting next to him, Miss Canizzo then, whom they met out, I believe, on a Memorial Day weekend in 1999, out on the North Carolina coastline with, again, Mike Ellicott. I don't know why you're a common theme here. Mike was there. They were playing Frisbee. She was probably taken by his skills on the beach. Probably not. But to the boys, to Ethan, Holden, Seth, your dad, whether you knew it or not, was one of the original X-Men. Did you ever know about that story? No. Well, hey, let me start. I'll give this to Seth first. It is an X-Men comic book. Now, you can look through there. I don't know if you'll see anything that resembles your dad, but, I'll tell the story. So what your dad failed to do when he was spending those hours out on a Hobie Cat sailing within Miss Elisa Canizzo was he couldn't reach his back with the sunscreen, apparently. And he was too bashful to ask anybody else to apply it. So apparently it was either a red X or a white X. I can't remember which one. But apparently a bad sunburn during that day. And so, I got to tell you, Ethan, I think, are you aspiring to be a lifeguard? Is that right? All right, buddy. I'm going to give you the suntan screen for your dad. All right. So there you go. Keep him out of hot water. And also, you might find your future spouse or girlfriend doing the same thing, applying suntan ocean. So, but again, shortly after he left Fort Bragg, that's it was an advanced civil schooling program through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that brought Pat to Georgia Institute of Technology, an outstanding school in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was also while he was there earning, I believe, joint degrees in civil engineering and business administration, that while you were there, you also returned to New Jersey and married Elisa, which again, just phenomenal opportunity. And from that point on, was it 14 months after 2001? Did I understand that occurred? Or,
2 months after 9/11.
2 months after 9/11. Which is then when we started to see just this turn of events, as many of you within this audience and online today have experienced. Pat left Atlanta and they moved up to Virginia, where he joined then Major General Strock, who was our Deputy Commanding General for Civil Works, and Pat served as his XO, served in the Operations Center there at the headquarters, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on T Street, and then I believe headed back for the first time, deployed to Afghanistan, where he served in the Gardez resident office. And I'm sure for mom and dad and Elisa, even then, pretty scary experience when you start to see things pick up, and that was just the beginning. Upon returning from that deployment, he headed to the Command General Staff College. Actually, 2 other wonders before that occurred. Ethan and Holden were born at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And the family grew and continued to grow and moved on to Kansas for a short period of time, only to then join Debbie and I in Bamberg, Germany. When we were told very rapidly in 2006 activate a unit that didn't exist and deploy it within 11 months, originally to Iraq. And Pat came in as my S3, my operations officer, who had the challenge of bringing 4 organizations from Kitzingen, Germany, Darmstadt, Germany, Vicenza, Italy, and an element of what was known as the 82nd Engineer Battalion Blue Babes, the headquarters, which had recently inactivated. And he built this organization while in flight, literally. And as we were finishing up a collective event, before we deployed, we were scheduled to leave out in March or April or May of 2007, we received a change of mission. We're not going to Iraq. The Special Troops Battalion will not be a Special Troops Battalion. It will be a task force, a maneuver task force, and will require reconstruction, change of leadership, and it won't be for 9 months. It won't be for 12 months, but it will be for 15 months to Nangarhar Province, Jalalabad, Afghanistan. Pat was absolutely marvelous, and he was the best operations officer I have ever had. And I owed the success that organization achieved over those 15 months of Afghanistan, and there were some hard fights during that time frame, to all of his endeavors. I lost him shortly upon arrival because the brigade commander said, I want somebody of his caliber to synchronize all the engineer operations across the eastern theater of Afghanistan, and I lost him. And I was upset about it. And I took it in stride and yet continued to call, run into him routinely over those months. You know, I kind of lost track because Debbie and I very quickly upon a redeployment within 2 months departed for Heidelberg, Germany. I looked to say, hey, where did you all go? And then I find out Madrid. How did you pull down Madrid, Spain? You know, as an ops engineer planner for NATO in Madrid. And then the third miracle showed up. Seth, who was born there in Spain. What an incredible year, I'm sure. As again, while he was there, he was selected for battalion command. The 326th Engineer Battalion, the 101st Air Assault Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Not only was he a battalion commander, but he also commanded Task Force Sapper Eagle very quickly upon arrival. In fact, I think the family was still in a rentals when you were told to deploy. Usually you arrive, and in previous, we had built an organization, trained the organization, deployed the organization, and reset. He arrived and didn't do any of that, deployed and did everything backwards from that. A huge task force, the last engineer task force in Iraq in support of Operation New Dawn. 9 companies, 8 or 9 companies, over 900 soldiers, doing everything from bridge reconnaissance to reconstructive, deconstructive efforts to really close out the operation. And he did it in prime time fashion, as always. And Elisa, with the boys at that time, all 3, supporting the family readiness group and everybody in between. I'm confident of that because we saw it in Germany everywhere we were. After commanding the 326th, and I failed to acknowledge this task, the task is ours, was the motto of that organization. He returned to Europe. I'm like, he's got one of the best histories of going back and forth to some great places, this time to Hohenfels, Germany, where he served as the Deputy Ops Group Commander and the lead trainer, senior trainer for the brigade troops battalion training. And while there was hand-selected for the Secretary of Defense and Army War College Fellowship with Intel Corporation in Hillsboro, Oregon, a little closer to home. I hope he saw more of you all when you were there. So, but they got to go out to Oregon, and then upon return to Winchester, Virginia, where he served as the commander of the Middle East District and later the deputy commander for the Transatlantic Division and the chief of staff concurrently. Was that under Major General Bob Carlson? And I think Bob may be online today too. So Bob, a big shout out to you as well, because I know how you benefited from Pat's extraordinary leadership and all that he did for the division. And it was there that Pat was then selected to come in the Norfolk District, and the family relocated here in 2018, 3 years ago, of which he changed over with Colonel Brian Hallberg yesterday after 3 phenomenal years, bringing all the lessons learned from every organization that you've been a part of to include what you learned from Intel Corporation on workplace and workforce transformation, innovation always, and I continue to learn from him in terms of his efforts. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a long history of 28 years of service, and I didn't recognize everything that you've done, but I do want to ask that if you would please join me in a round of applause for Colonel Pat Kinsman. Now to Elisa. He couldn't have done any of that without you. He would not be where he is today without all of your love and support and the sacrifices that you made on behalf of not only the boys and other families and your own family at times, based on the distances that you all have traveled time and time again, still finding time, even every once in a while, to visit family and friends along the way, to include us in Boston at one point in time. But it's the small award that we present today doesn't measure up to all that you've done on behalf of this gentleman, these 3 boys, and your families over the years, and all of the families from the Army and other services whom you've served with and for without getting paid a dime. So we thank you for your extraordinary service as well, and for keeping this family's glue and chasing these 3 guys, probably running the soccer practice every day. Ethan, do you have your driver's license yet? All right, now you and Holden got it. You're good. So, but again, we're so proud of the family and all that you've done, because we know where all the credit is deserving, even though I know you've got an incredible husband and father sitting next to you as well. And lastly, and if I may, one more round of applause for this woman here for all that she was going to. And to the boys, Ethan, a rising senior, Holden, a rising junior, and I understand it's at the Great Bridge High School. Varsity soccer players, academics are through the roof. Keep it up, or Mom will tear you apart. Yeah. Seth, congratulations, sir, as you approach 6th grade in St. Matthews, as I understand. Is that the new school you're heading to? Go Eagles, all right? You got it. Again, just an extraordinary family, and your parents are so proud of all that you've achieved in such a short period of time, and all of us will watch as you continue to take flight beyond even Norfolk, Virginia, wherever those paths may lead. So to all of you, to the family that are here with us today, one more round of applause for the Kinsman family. So I don't want to step over the MC today. So are we going to invite both Colonel and Colonel Pat Kinsman and his wife up?
Yes.
Let's do that. Pat and Elisa, please join us. And here we go. Okay.
All right, first up is I think your retirement award. All right, attention to orders. The Legion of Merit is being awarded to Colonel Patrick V. Kinsman, United States Army Engineer District, Norfolk, for exceptionally meritorious service to the nation throughout a distinguished career in the Army, beginning in 1993 and culminating as the commander of Norfolk District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, from June 2018 to July 2021. For over 28 years of stellar service to the nation, Colonel Kinsman's leadership and professional excellence set the standard to which he devoted his life and exemplifies the values and ideals of the Army and the Corps. His unwavering dedication and selfless service had an immense impact on the lives of countless soldiers, civilians, and families. Colonel Kinsman's actions are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect tremendous credit upon him, the Norfolk District, the North Atlantic Division, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the United States Army. Signed, Scott A. Spellman, Lieutenant General, Chief of Engineers. Colonel Kinsman is also being awarded the Fleury Medal. The Silver Order of the Fleury Medal is awarded to Colonel Patrick V. Kinsman for inspirational leadership to the United States Army Corps of Engineers in recognition for 28 years of distinguished service to the Engineer Regiment and the United States Army Corps of Engineers. Colonel Kinsman continuously demonstrated high professional competence, genuine leadership, and an unrelenting will to accomplish the mission. Colonel Kinsman's dedication and accomplishments reflect great credit on himself, the Engineer Regiment, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of the Army, and the nation. Signed, Scott A. Spellman, Lieutenant General, Chief of Engineers.
All right, so I'm going to depart from the script a little bit, if you forgive me, because for those that are not familiar with this award, it was struck in October of 1779 on behalf of Captain Francois de Fleury, who was a young Frenchman at the time who had joined the Revolutionary War on behalf of General George Washington. And at one point in time, in July of 1777, maybe, it may have been 79, when the British had actually driven up through the Hudson River, through the New York Harbor today, up the Hudson River, and taken Stony Point and an encampment at Verplank, about 15 miles south of West Point. Brigadier General Mad Anthony Wayne was the gentleman's name that led the Corps and said, "We will attack. We cannot afford to lose those two encampments, so we're going to take them back. We're going to take them back at night. And we're going to leave our muskets behind, or actually fixed bayonets." No ammo was distributed, and they crossed into the waters in the middle of the night, which Stony Point, which is where this battle took place, is literally about a 150-foot peninsula that jets into out into the Hudson River. And at night, the waters rise from the surge, the tidal surge, to the point where everybody was walking through the water about waist deep. So if you can imagine, we'd all like to be walking through the water right now about waist deep. Suppose, they were trying to surprise the British soldiers that are on top of the redoubts, but they heard them coming. They were sloshing through the water, and they immediately started firing down. Brigadier General Wayne was struck, not killed, but struck, and he was taken out, as was the regimental commander, of which Captain Francois de Fleury was second in command. Francois led the rest of the forces up the redoubt, leaping over the top of the abattis and the fall timbers to the reinforced gun positions, found the flag flying, cut it down, and because of his efforts, the Revolutionary forces swept through, took both that point and Verplank, And he was heralded and recognized by the U.S. Congress in October of that same year in 1779, where the first medal was struck on behalf of those efforts. And so today we're recognizing Pat. There's several categories: steel, bronze, silver, gold, and today he receives silver based on all that he's done over 28 years of service. And Pat, again, we congratulate you on the award.
Thank you. And for Mrs. Kinsman, you're also receiving an award. The Public Service Commendation Medal is being awarded to Mrs. Elisa Kinsman. Mrs. Kinsman has distinguished herself through extraordinary contributions to the United States Army and the Department of Defense, while assisting her spouse, the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the Army family. Her dedicated and exceptional service as an Army spouse, and most importantly, as a leader and volunteer, has made a tremendous positive influence on service to the Army and the community at large. She has significantly improved the quality of life for thousands of soldiers and their families. Mrs. Kinsman's distinguished service reflects great credit upon her, the U.S. Army, and our nation. Signed, Thomas Tickner, Brigadier General, commanding. And now, Colonel Kinsman. Oh, sorry.
All right.
And Colonel Kinsman will have some few words.
I need a drink of water first. Okay, only one time when I was in my office over here did I actually grab the bullhorn. It was a Navy vessel that was rolling by, and I was saying, "Beat Navy." And I don't see any Navy vessels. I know we have some Navy partners here that are as well, but thanks for taking a little bit of your time to help us celebrate today. And it's certainly been a great and emotional week. The last 60 to 90 days have gone by in a flash. And Christian and Pia, I know you guys are sitting in the direct sunlight. It's okay to shift if you want. It's very hot there, right? So, okay. No, please. So my first thought really is, thank you again for helping Elisa and I celebrate, taking time out of your busy schedules. And again, for those here in person, for those here online, we're grateful. And again, and I had the same problem. Okay, I'll just say it. Up in the office, I was trying to do a briefing, and I look over, and then boats would be going by, right? So let's just enjoy the scenery. It's okay. I'll be done shortly, but welcome. And my second thought really is, it's really well, words and speeches can be powerful and moving, and they are certainly very, very important. But so is celebrating and having fun. And I certainly realize that as the wind kicks up here a little bit, that looks like a little bit of rain in the distance too. My words and remarks are the one thing maybe that's really we need to get complete before we actually go in and do the celebration. So actually the second thing actually on my mind is a cold beer. So whether you're here with us today in person or celebrating elsewhere, please do crack a cold one, not only for Elisa and I in this celebration, but for the service members and civilians that I've been honored to serve alongside all these years. So again, as Joe Miller mentioned, a great support team has put this event together. I did it as the commander, 2 back-to-back big events, and you've done an awesome job, and I just thank you for everything. Andy, especially as you're snapping pictures, and Mark is making sure that folks are online, and the great teamwork that we exhibited in aligning the chairs, tables, and cloths and all that. But I certainly am a bit emotional, as you may expect. A tremendous pride in my service, and it's really the great teams that I've been able to be a part of for the last 28 years. I feel just so fortunate. And I've tried to influence others positively, tried to lead courageously, and but I've been touched by so many great people through the years, and that's why, as General Milhorn went through our history together, that's why Elise and I are so honored and indebted to you and Deb, sir, for joining us here today. And there's a lot of ships, okay? So with Navy guys, Navy Town, etc., I'm grateful for a lot of ships for General Milhorn. First of all, there's his leadership in combat and in garrison, courageous, steely-eyed, and passionate and comforting. And sir, honestly, my nickname for you was Sparky. For a while, I don't think I've ever told you that, but you know it. Thanks for your followership as well and the example, because again, you can't have a successful team if no one's willing to follow. Your mentorship and guidance throughout the years. You mentioned the Boston trip as we rank ordered the 05 commands, and I still have that list somewhere in the files. But and lastly, for your friendship as well. So honored and grateful that you are here today, and you went into the 65th Engineer Battalion history pretty well, but we certainly go way back. And that time for me was pretty formative. It was a lot of young men, frankly, just a few women, but we were focused in that organization between the great officers, awesome NCOs. Bill Lindsay is out there, hopefully dialed in. Then Major Mac, Steve McGonigal were great mentors for myself, for then Captain Milhorn, and for Mike Ellicott as well. So again, thank you, sir, for being here, and Deb for making this so special. But that's really the theme for my short remarks. I'll say, really thankful and grateful for everything that I've experienced, for the opportunity and privilege to serve our nation. I'm grateful for you all participating. Thank you. Elise and I have met so many people throughout the course of our service over the last 28 years. That includes Army teammates, those of other services, of course, our great neighbors that we've met at every stop along the way, and it includes NATO allies as well, that we've been fortunate to meet in several assignments. It's been a wonderful adventure. And yes, it's really happening. I am retiring. It's official. And I'm saying that specifically for Bob Bishop. He is the father of my longtime childhood friend, Rob Bishop, who has asked me, in fact, every time that I've gone home to the Pacific Northwest, he's like, "Hey, Pat, are you going to make it a career?" And so, Bob, yes, I've made it a career. I'm retiring. And it's official. But I also wanted to say to Bob, right from the heart too, he was he was a lieutenant in the 65th Engineer Battalion as well, right? But he served in the Vietnam era, and a lot of those men, a lot of those soldiers didn't get the welcome home that soldiers and sailors and Marines, etc., of my generation have received. And so, Bob, thanks for your service and welcome home. So I won't recap my entire career blow by blow. That might take too long. The beer doesn't stay cold forever, but I do want to go back and cover a few things. So I have to go back to the beginning. Very warm, wonderful memories of my childhood and my teenage years prior to attending the military academy. Those formative years were marked by close friends, great adult mentors, teachers, and coaches. People like, again, Howard Johnson, Bob Goldberg, and coaches Bruce Brown, Don Harney, Bill Neal, a teacher, and many other adults. Adults who set the right example for my generation to learn from. And those years were, again, full of lots of love from my parents, Tom and Carol. Family trips, camping, traveling to New Hampshire to see my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and backpacking, fishing with my dad. In the summer, winter skiing, Mount Bachelor, or in the Cascade Mountains where my mom was on ski patrol. In the high school years, the three amigos were formed. So Jeff Tobin, his wife Katie, Kevin Hall, his wife Mary Pat is online today, but great friends that still are going strong today. So awesome to have you all here today. And during all this, Mom and Dad's love and support, again, was very, very formative, ever present, and it was a great place to grow up. And now, as a parent of myself, Holden, stay focused. I know that I threw my parents a bit of a curveball when I accepted the nomination and appointment to the United States Military Academy. I certainly sought a different college experience than many of my high school classmates, and I certainly got it, right? Just before I departed for West Point, my dad wrote me a letter that I have to this day, and part of that letter said, quote, "You're about to undergo a dramatic change in lifestyle that is certainly to test you more than you've experienced before. You have the mental and physical toughness to do well at West Point. Maintain the strong sense of self that you now have, and keep your sense of humor. It is invaluable and an important part of your makeup." And incidentally, after West Point and after I'd had a couple of years in the Army under my belt, I reflected on that letter. I had the confidence of a young lieutenant in the 65th, and I wrote a letter back to my dad that said, and I'll paraphrase a little bit, but I basically said, "Dad, do you remember that letter you sent me, reminding me to hold on to my sense of humor?" I said, "Dad, if anything, my sense of humor has grown tremendously in the Army for all the funny stuff we do every single day." But in all seriousness, I'm getting grateful for my parents, for the way they raised me and my brother, their continuous love and support to Elisa, boys, and I. Mom, Dad, love you very much. Awesome that you're here, and thanks for everything. And as General Milhorn mentioned, equally supportive, but certainly with an Italian flair, were Elisa's parents. And, Tom and Dottie, as he said, are absolutely here with us today. They're celebrating. They're looking down from above. And the type of party that we're throwing tonight, they would absolutely be, in their element. And we miss them so much. So with the great kind of teenage years and the decision to go to the military academy, frankly, 4 years flew by. The high academic, military, and physical standards were designed to be challenging, and they were. You learn quickly to work as a team and manage your time, and I did. Cadet life was hectic, but I believe that I was a fairly well-focused cadet. I did my best to study hard and endure, and maybe even enjoy academy life. But at the end of my second year, General Schwarzkopf came post Desert Storm, and he had a message for the cadets, and two things really stuck out for what he said. "Reggie, let me know if that rain gets any closer, okay? I need a warning, right? I probably need about 10 minutes. Desert Storm had just ended, and he said two things. He said, to be a 21st century leader, you had to believe in what you learned at West Point: duty, honor, and country. And he warned us not to believe in the cynics that were part of the Corps, that were frankly, pretty negative. He also said that he learned more from poor leaders in the military than he had from the good ones. And that really caused me to think, geez, man, I want to work for good leaders. I want to be a good leader. I want to inspire others. And so I made some lifelong friends in our class of 93. As John Milhorn said, our motto is defenders of the free, which I think is appropriate moment for the time. And I was in company A2 and B4, and two fellow Buffs are here today, Rob Cochran and Jeremy Ball. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Go Buffs. Go Buffs. Great to see you here. And right now, simultaneously, one of our classmates at Fort Knox is pinning on one-star general, John Cushing, who is the epitome of an Army leader, very much like General Milhorn, who leads courageously and takes care of soldiers and families. And we really wish John and Marla the very best as they continue to serve. So after graduating from West Point, a slew of schools, I ended up in the last phase of Ranger School, and I was fairly well emaciated, except that then I got 2 rounds of time to eat on breaks, and I ended up with a bunkmate named Mike Ellicott. And his first words to me were, "Do you have any food?" No, that is the absolute truth. He'd gone straight 4 phases. I had a little bit of time to build some pounds back. He remembers a really large round head. There was a little bit of swelling. I don't know. But I'm sure it wasn't that bad, Mike. No. But Mike, along with Jeff Mazakowski, 93, we went on to be roommates in Hawaii, then at Fort Leonard Wood. Were captains at Bragg together and had many adventures over the years. In fact, one of the pictures there was the day I arrived in Afghanistan in 07. That was Mike's last day as he was tagging out to make the long journey home after his 15-month deployment. So another fun fact, the fun fact that Mike is that he was there, as General Milhorn pointed out, when I met Lisa as well on the shores of North Carolina. I think almost half of our wedding saber bearers are here too. So Mike, lead along, his wife Julie, and Nick Davis, who's a U.S. Marine Corps officer. Yeah, I think he's still working on the navigation piece to arrive here, but look forward to seeing him and his wife Lori lately. And Nick, if you're online, I take it back. We have some seats for you. Now I can see it in some of your faces, right? General Milhorn did a great job uncovering, my career. Holy cow! If Kinsman talks through every assignment, it's going to be a long time. 14 military assignments, 31 months of deployment, 28 years. But that's what you do. You take it. That's the discipline, right? We're going to go long. No. I could spend all day recounting the tales, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it really comes down to a story of service, dedication, commitment to something that is greater than any one individual. It's about people. It's about soldiers. It's about men and women who write a blank check to this nation with their lives on the line. And while it's my retirement that we're recognizing this evening, the story I want to tell, the story I want you to understand is one of the great soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen that I've been honored to serve alongside for 28 years. It's a story of leaders and followers. It's a story of service again, sacrifice, and commitment. It's not just a story of the love of soldiering that I want to tell, but the story of soldiers themselves that I will share, because it's never been about me, and I'm immensely proud of my service, but because I've served with them. The beer is still on ice. I think we're good. But what I do want to share with you is just the following. What I've seen in my career, just a few things. I would tell you of the great humor and resilience and endless wisecracks of the American soldier. Sergeants Morgan, Lindsay, and Christian, after climbing all night up and down the gulches of Hawaii with the infantry in what we call a movement to daylight. It was just a training exercise. I'd also share with you the sage advice of some senior NCOs of that time. Fred Scanlon and Barry Hamilton, and again, the 65th Engineer Battalion. I would take you on an all-night patrol through the villages in Thailand on exercise Cobra Gold, or the frozen grounds of Sapporo, Japan, where we worked closely with Japanese soldiers. I would show you the China-Hong Kong border before it was turned back to the Chinese, full of barbed wire and a countdown clock, facing the Hong Kong side, ticking off the days, hours, minutes, and seconds until Hong Kong was returned to Chinese control. I will tell you of the mental toughness and swagger of the soldiers in the 20th Engineer Brigade Airborne at Fort Bragg, who willingly jump out of the plane in the middle of a moonless night, ready to overcome whatever is thrown at them. I would want you to sit next to me on the plane, rigged up in a parachute, with a heavy drop about 1.5 feet in front of your knees. It's a truck, a grader, a bulldozer. It's rigged up to go out to the back of the plane, and one moment it's there, and the next moment it's out the plane. Just like that. and you're going out after it. I would tell you the expertise of our great USACE civilians and their willingness to deploy overseas in support of U.S. forces, where they share most of the risk that our military forces have on deployment. I would tell you of their great technical expertise, too. In fact, not from Norfolk District, but from other districts and headquarters, USACE structural engineers are down in Miami now, assisting in the investigation of the Surfside collapse. I would share with you the tremendous commitment and risk that our Afghan interpreters shared as they supported U.S. forces in Afghanistan. I would tell you of my West Point classmates Adam Cochran and Steve Reich, just two of the many who made the ultimate sacrifice. Adam and I didn't know each other well at school, but got to know each other very well during, again, all phases and the extended version of Ranger School, and we graduated. We were assigned to Hawaii together. Adam was infantry. He went on to serve with the Ranger Battalion, and then he wanted to be even more elite, so he joined the Special Forces. And he was killed in a training accident on January 26, 2003. A training accident. Steve Reich was an All-American baseball player for Army. He set numerous records after West Point. He briefly went on to the minor leagues, and then a Pentagon policy decision made him go into the Army full-time, and he never looked back. Like Adam, Steve also sought an elite career and served as a pilot with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and he was killed in a helicopter crash on June 28, 2005, when his helicopter was shot down in Afghanistan. Again, these men are gone, but not forgotten. I would share with you the tremendous burden that leaders carry in combat operations, how men and women rise to the occasion of the moment and fight for their fellow soldier. I would also share with you stories from the home front. Spouses like Elisa and Debbie and many, many others who stepped up and leaned in when their soldier was deployed, that helped rally around other spouses and kids that were struggling. And I would also share with you the tremendous joy and excitement of Welcome Home ceremony, when the prayers of so many were answered after nearly a 15-month deployment. I could go on and on and on, but you're probably thinking I already have. So it's been a tremendous journey for Elisa and I, through all the challenges and the demands of life in military, throughout all the moves, the 31 months that I've been deployed. It's really been the people that have been the best part. Our supportive family and friends, from our early days as children and teenagers and then young adults, our greater Pacific Northwest network, our greater Atlanta network, and our Hampton Roads network is very, very strong. The people have been the very best. And as I mentioned before, the great friends and neighbors that we've met all along the way have always been willing to lend a hand. So we're excited that we can celebrate this military journey, the conclusion this evening, with some, right, that have supported us over the years. We wish, of course, that everybody could be here, and we absolutely understand geographic challenges and that life happens as well. But before we celebrate, let me just get to some recognitions. Elisa and I are again so grateful for the love and support of all family and friends throughout this 28-year military journey. We're excited to not be moving this summer. At least I think we are. Right? So please come visit us. To the Norfolk District team that has done a fantastic job for two big back-to-back ceremonies. Again, blame it on me. There it is. Two ceremonies / celebrations. I just want to say again, super job. I'm grateful. Mark Havlin, Andy, Chuck, and the whole team. Thank you. I'm grateful for all that you've done. So for my three boys, Ethan, Holden, and Seth, again, Mom and I are so proud of you. So proud of you. Despite all of the pick up your socks, use your napkin, put your phone down, comments that you hear from us, we're so happy that you're growing into strong, capable young men, and we're excited for your future. And for Ethan and Holden, you'll be soon making decisions about your post-high school future. Mom and I are all in to help you make the best decisions. Now, yesterday at the change of command, I talked about an attitude of gratitude. So today it's about responsibility. You're responsible for making your way in this world. You're responsible for your own actions, your own education, motivation, and your own drive to accomplish your goals. Seth, stick with me, buddy. The path that Mom and I took in life has hopefully set the right example for you. You're the one that sharpens your own skills, that decides what is next for you. And I think you have to be practical, sharp, and ready. And again, Mom and I are doing our very best to raise you. So what I'd like to give you is really something that I think is in fact practical, sharp, and ready. And it's a tool that I hope you'll find useful over the course of your lives. So please come on up, guys. E-S-E-H. So fun, right? Yeah, you have to be careful. Yeah. I think in Cub Scouts, Ethan and Holden have their whittling chip. I was warning Seth that he doesn't have his yet, but again, it's a knife. If you use it carefully, it'll serve you well. If you don't, so finally, geez, do I have a gift? Finally, to my bride, Elisa, what an adventure it has been. Thank you for catching my eye a long time ago on Memorial Day on that coast of North Carolina. For that Hobie Cat ride that set us on the same course together these many, many years. And for taking a leap of faith and agreeing to attend a soldier's ball at Fort Bragg many, many moons ago. And I say battle buddies in the Army. I had First Sergeant Steve Stagich, who ensured that she was absolutely safe from any paratroopers, right, as I was doing my company commander business. And I think Lee DeLong has some memories of that, right? Thank goodness for Steve. So, Lisa, your passion for life, the way that you mother our boys, and for your enduring love and support to me through our nearly 20 years of marriage, all the moves, all the rewards and challenges of military life, I am so thankful that you are by my side for all of it. All of it. Our love truly has grown stronger each and every year. And as I said yesterday, I truly am excited for our next chapter together. Now, the gift that I have for you, as I'm almost retired from the Army, I got a few things to do. It's simply more quality time together. And it starts very soon. And the details, these pockets don't work. The details are in this card. I love you. We're doing great on weather. The beer's getting ready. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, to everyone near and far, Elisa and I are absolutely grateful for all of you taking time to help us celebrate. And let's get this party and the next phase of our journey started right now. I had to get my water too. Now sit down for the second half, please. Second half. No, just kidding.
No, actually, please remain standing. We're going to play the Army song, or the engineer song and the Army song.
Time to go to the chopper.
proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army was rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Come off the gates of the strong. For wherever we go, you always know that the army was rolling along.
All right, everybody, that concludes the formal portion of the retirement ceremony. How about let's everybody go inside, cool off, and enjoy some barbecue.
Thank you for attending.
And please don't jump in the river.
Mark, yes, well, I didn't know that.
Very appropriate. Very appropriate.
Thank you for the comment. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I like that. Show some of the inside story.
Now we're in a bit of a race.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm gonna work it out. Yeah.